Keith, tell us what it was like taking your father, Charlie, back to Iwo Jima one final time.
Yeah, to say it was emotional would be an understatement of my life, to be frank about it. First and foremost, just to have the opportunity to go, period, was extraordinary, and knowing how restrictive it is to be there and to get there for that matter. But, my dad would say to me when he was alive, if I ever get a chance to go to Iwo Jima, do it. He never wanted to go back, and I can't blame him for what he experienced there. But I heard him in my head, and Tracie, God love you, Tracie, for calling me and telling me there was an opportunity to take Charlie back to Iwo, and me along with him. And I was so emotionally riveted by the idea and having the opportunity to go with Charlie's voice in my head saying go. It was a trip of a lifetime. And to bring him with me, knowing that I wasn't going to leave him there, by the way, because he never wanted to be on that island again. It was the single most intense, reflective, emotional few hours maybe of my life.
There's been so much more. It wasn't just even going to Iwo. For example, the only beach that you guys had access to, right?
Exactly.
Was the one. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. But that was it. So interestingly enough, we ended up spending most of our time on Iwo, what was truncated time. We'll get to that story in a second. But we were at Yellow Beach 1, which is the beach where Charlie came ashore. And knowing his story like the back of my hand, I knew right where we were. And to know I was standing on the exact spot, Tracie and I are standing on the exact spot where Charlie nearly lost his life. And many, many others did. That opportunity, if you will, to be at that exact place was chilling, absolutely chilling. And my heart still races just rethinking through all that, reimagining that again, because my God, that was very intense.
And then even another layer, your Uncle Eddy, who you never got to know,
right?
Who, for people that want to know the story, I mean, this even goes even more into this relationship and how we all know each other. But the story that Tracie did with Charlie, Eddy, Iwo Jima, we'll link it, so it's in the descriptions. You can check that out. But standing where your father stood, 81 years ago, and then the history with his brother Eddy.
Mm-hmm.
How many times do you guys just break down and lose it and cry that day?
Yeah,
Tracie, I know. I mean, there was a moment, and Tracie, please chime in here, but there was a moment. We were starting to pick up some black sand from Yellow Beach 1, and I looked over at Tracie. We didn't have to say anything to each other. We looked at each other and we just hugged each other, and it was just, we knew. Man, that was a moment. Powerful. Very, very profound moment. And just Tracie's been there with me there being emotionally supportive of me from the minute we had the first conversation, and she gravitating into the story of my dad and my uncle. Oh my gosh. And then to be on the spot, my gosh, you guys, on the spot. And we hugged each other, and just the sense of knowing what took place not only with my dad and my uncle, but with many, many, many other Marines, almost 7,000 of them who never came home, including Eddy. And it was just a moment. It was one of many, many, many moments. But that particular moment, that embrace, just an unspoken embrace, was really, really powerful. Yeah.
So you got to spend, how old are you, Keith?
I'm 64.
So you got to spend like what, 62, 3 years of your life with Charlie, with your dad.
Yeah. Yeah, he and I lived together for the last 13 years of his life. And I cared for him as he, from 90 to 103, he died just 1 month shy of his 103rd birthday. But as he approached 100, he needed a little bit more care. He was lucid his entire life. I mean, all the way up until the end. So I was very fortunate that cognitive decline was not part of his equation, but physically he needed help at the end of his life. And I could not have been prouder or more privileged to be with him through thick and thin, because one, I wouldn't be here without him, obviously. And, you guys, that's another really poignant moment that hit me standing on Yellow Beach 1, knowing that Charlie was hit by a mortar shell at that exact same spot. And as he crawled out of the bunker, he gets hit again, and he's essentially bleeding out. And had it not been for his fellow Marine, a guy named Glenn Moose, and whatever divine intervention occurred, it hit me there, standing with Tracie, how close I was to non-existence. And all my ancestors, my brothers, my nieces, my nephews, we wouldn't be here had it not been for what happened 81 years ago at that exact same spot. So that was another moment for me. Just, man, was that intense.
You're like an incredible podcast guest, Keith, because I'm not even having to ask the questions. You make it, I mean, the story in itself tells itself. And
I'm just riffing,
Yeah.
It's so close to me. He's still close to me. Right?
Yeah. I mean, there was a couple of questions there. Like, was there a moment on Iwo where you felt like it hit you, and you were telling us about the hugging and being on the beach, and did being back there make you feel even closer to your father? Which, I mean, I get that sense as well, right? Or just from what you just said, that it just adds another level of perspective to your life, your family's life, the life that Charlie fought for, and and gave you all.
Again, it was just I'd studied that island, by the way. I studied that island for basically my entire life, and because I'm living history. I mean, for all these years, Charlie, and he was not shy about talking about the war. Like, all due respect, many other Marines just didn't want to talk about it. I get that. I can't blame them. But Charlie was really forthcoming. And he didn't mince any words about it. So he embedded in me this desire to learn more and more about all of his battles, which Iwo was his fourth, but especially Iwo because of that situation. And I studied the island for so many years. And it was the island itself, in a most bizarre way, was almost like an old friend to me. And Tracie, I'd love your perspective on this too, because as we were descending, the charter plane flew from the northeast to the southwest, getting into Iwo. And as we're descending through the clouds, the plane was paralleling the landing beaches. And it dawned on me that we are literally directly over where Eddy was buried at sea. And here out of the window appears an old friend. I mean, this person I've known for my whole life. And it's starting to reveal itself. And here comes the beaches. And slowly but surely we're heading toward Suribachi. Hadn't appeared yet, but all of a sudden, the head of this friend, it was ghostly. The head of this ghost shows up out of the airplane window, and there's Iwo. It was so hauntingly familiar to me. And the plane banked around and then came back, kind of almost did a U-turn around Suribachi. And so we got to see that whole island from a different perspective, different angle. But wow, you guys, it was really just that moment as well. And Tracie, I mean, because you could see out your window too, right?
Yeah. I have accepted I will be crying through this entire episode. For me, I was watching you guys. I could see the island, but I think especially we had 5 World War II veterans there. 4 of them had been there at the Battle of Iwo Jima, some coming back for the first time. And then Keith, of course, going for the first time. And I think for me, when I first saw it, honestly, my heart sank, if I'm being honest, because I didn't know. Sorry.
I know. I'm with you. Mm-hmm.
You want to do these things and you want to take these veterans back on these trips, but you don't in any way want to cause any further trauma. And so I think for me, I was holding my breath that this was going to be a positive experience for them. But you do, I was watching Don Graves really closely, and you could just see all those memories are flooding back. So I think, yeah, you just hope that you're not harming anyone further. And the day we'll talk about it went on to be such a beautiful experience for them. And they've communicated how, now their last memories of this island, though those atrocities and horrific, experiences that they went through will not be erased, but their last memories are now really beautiful ones of friendship, of reconciliation, of some closure. We had a peace and reconciliation ceremony with the Japanese, and they couldn't have had a warmer welcome. So I think that was, when I first saw it and we're landing, I kind of felt sick to my stomach, just crossing my fingers that today was going to be something that was really good for them. And I think the other thing, before I forget, I wanted to say that, that this is Memorial Day weekend. Most people, not everyone, have the ability to go out to the national cemeteries, the veteran cemeteries, and visit their loved one's grave. Charlie never had that. So this was the first time in 81 years that these brothers were back together again.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks to you, Tracie, because Tracie was the champion behind this opportunity to go. And you're right. For those who are listening or watching and didn't know the backstory, Charlie's brother was a flamethrower on Iwo, and he landed 5th Marines. He landed Blue Beach 1 and made it ashore. A story goes he was approaching a pillbox, and he took rifle fire in his abdomen. And the guys who were with him documented that Uncle Eddy didn't fall. He kept going. He burned out. He finished his mission. He burned out the pillbox. And on his way back, he fell, collapsed, and didn't die. His buddies got him to the shore, put Eddy on a Higgins boat back out to a hospital ship. Well, it was a transport ship converted to a hospital ship, the Bayfield. And Eddy gets on board the Bayfield, and he's put into a medic bay, a makeshift medic bay. And he's now in a coma, still alive, but in a coma. Ironically, my dad was also on board the Bayfield because he was hit, as I mentioned earlier, and by quirk of fate brought out to the Bayfield prior to Eddy. And Eddy comes on board. The medics look at each other, look at the dog tags going, holy shit, these guys are brothers. And ironically, Eddy was put in the medic bay 1 curtain's length away from Charlie, 40 feet away. And the medics knew that Eddy wasn't going to make it. And they discussed whether or not to tell Charlie that his brother was dying right next door to him. They decided not to tell Charlie because they didn't want to introduce any more trauma to him. So Eddy dies February 20th, the morning of February 20th. And buried at sea, of course. And yeah, I forget where I was going with that story or how I got onto that, guys. But yeah, that was the backstory to Eddy. You guys are going to have to refresh me how in the hell I got on that story. But
we were talking about how, this trip was the first time in 81 years that these brothers that's the closest they've been. And
right.
Since that being on the Bayfield together.
That's it, Tracie. Right. So to Tracie's point, Charlie didn't have a cemetery to go to.
Yeah.
He didn't have, Eddy wasn't buried with a headstone. He was buried in a canvas bag and it's at the bottom of the sea. And that is as close as, to Tracie's point, as close as my dad, who was with us, closest he's been to his brother Eddy in 81 years. Good story though there, Tracie. Thanks for bringing that one up.
I'm glad you remembered because I was just so into the story that I completely forgot how we got there also. But I mean, and then for you too, right? Same thing, the closest you've been to Eddy's burial site.
You bet. And you know, guys, interestingly enough, and Charlie and I talked about this before he died too, He didn't want to mention this already. He did not want to go back to Iwo Jima, but boy, did he ever miss his little brother. And so the idea was why I brought Charlie was we were hoping to be able to get an opportunity to go out to Eddy's burial coordinates, which we've done massive research to find his exact GPS coordinates,
Right.
about 3 miles off the coast, off the shoreline. And I've got the exact coordinates just from the ship's records of the Bayfield, in fact, and from his death certificate. Anyway, we were really hoping that we could somehow get out to those burial coordinates. And I was intending, and maybe some point in this lifetime I'll have another chance, but intending to put Charlie's urn, his full urn, into the ocean to bury him on top of his brother at the bottom of the sea.
Which we haven't given up on that mission. It's just logistically how to work through it, but I think it can happen.
Right.
Well, and speaking of not giving up logistically on missions, so Charlie passed June of 24.
Yeah, ironically enough, over 4th of July, rightfully so.
And I remember we got together February for the 80th anniversary of Iwo Jima, and there was a push to get you all out there that year.
Yeah.
And I just don't want it to go without saying, at least a year-long's fight and efforts and everything that went into making this happen, which a vast majority, Tracie, Hunter beyond the call. But Neil and I know a lot. Does anybody have the president's phone number? Who wants to drive to the White House for me? And
I was not giving up.
Yeah, just incredible to do this and make this happen, for sure.
Yeah.
So,
and then to be able, and Keith, this was a different piece of it for you, in a very bittersweet way. But we had 5 World War II veterans with us, and again, 4 of those were there at Iwo Jima. Joe Etheridge, served on Guam, so that was his first time back. But going with the men who would have been there those days with your dad and uncle.
Yeah, for sure. And Don Graves being a fellow flamethrower, and you guys, this was another just incredibly, one of my top 3 moments on the trip. Oh my gosh. And Tracie, please chime in here because you can't make this shit up. And this is this was so incredibly meaningful. We had a very abbreviated time on Iwo because the flight was late getting in. Don't get into the logistics, all that. But anyway, we get to the peace ceremony, and we had all, as anyone would on Iwo, have the desire to go to the top of Suribachi. But it's not easy to get up there. It's a long way, and it's all uphill naturally. And the only way up was by hiking, unless there was some transport pre-commissioned to do that. And the ceremony's ending, and we're on a rigid schedule to get back to the airplane to take off before they shut us down there. And interestingly enough, and by the way, Kobayashi's grandson is leading this ceremony. And he's coming around and shaking the hands of all of our fellow contingent of the trip, including the veterans, our 100-year-old veterans. And John Martinez, one of the fellow guardians, pulls aside the defense minister of Japan and says, "Hey, any chance you could get these veterans up to the top of Suribachi?" And there was some dialogue back and forth. And all of a sudden, here come 2 or 3 white vans down this dirt road and filled with Japanese soldiers, military men. And I hear in Japanese all this commotion going on. And some of these Japanese soldiers and military men are being ordered out of the van to allow the 5 Americans on board the van and their guardians. And so here we are getting on board these white shuttle vans, and they take off and go up the switchbacks to Suribachi. And we get to the top, or what I thought was to the top of Suribachi. No, they just got to the little parking pad up there. From there, it was this really steep incline. And then at the top of the incline was this crazy, precarious white
like ladder
staircase, almost like a ladder. Yes, Tracie. It was precarious for anybody in any shape. Again, back to the story about one of my top 3 moments of the trip. The irony of these 5 World War II veterans, 4 of whom were actually on Iwo, or in the battle itself.
And Don, who was on Mount Suribachi that day.
Don, yes, Tracie. Don, the last time Don's up there, he's flaming people out with liquid fire. You know, he's spitting tongues of fire and burning enemies up. Point is, we get to this parking pad, and the Japanese military men are helping our 5 World War II veterans up, physically helping them, getting them situated, hoisting them up the steps, making sure they don't fall, protecting them for their safety, and getting them to the top of Mount Suribachi. Wow, was that ever a mind blow to see what's happened in 81 years. How crazy of a twist of fate was that? And to think about that, it's just mind-boggling to me to witness that. It was one of the most incredible moments of our hours on Iwo.
And really, just from the minute we landed, I mean, these guys are, our youngest was 98, Don was almost 101, so they're not spring chickens.
Oh.
But the care that the Japanese were taking, I mean, I remember watching them carefully lifting one of the veterans' foot to make sure it got, just gently put into the car. These cars were, tight quarters, and they were just so gentle every step of the way. And for people who do not know the background of Suribachi, so he was the commanding general for the Japanese forces on Iwo Jima, and then was killed on Iwo Jima. And I think from what I remember, I don't even think his body's ever been found. So his grandson was the one there, and we've got pictures of it, but he is hand in hand with these American veterans. And it was not a photo op. It was just so sincere. And they were laughing together. Don Graves had him going oorah, and everyone was but it was such a sincere, we are glad you're here. And yeah, I mean, it was, talk about taking a lesson in humility and kindness and just reverence, for these veterans. The Japanese could not have been more welcoming.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it was uncomfortable for the veterans to some extent, just there was family members there who had lost, their loved ones on this island, descendants, the grandson, having lost his grandfather. But it was beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. In a remarkable way. I mean, again, and it was all so spontaneous too, to Tracie's point. that this was not orchestrated. This just naturally unfolded, and how genuine it was. The whole thing was just, it was surreal. I mean, this whole trip, I mean, I keep looking back on it and it's like, wow. I joked with Tracie on the phone recently. I said, it still feels like a dream that this happened and that we were there. And it's just so, my gosh, surreal is the only word. Yeah. Oh, then another crazy funny story. I don't want to be kind of funny, Tracie. I'll put it kind of in the funny category.
Is it the drive home?
Yes. Do you want to share that story? Because
I want you to share it.
My God, you guys. So we're finishing up on Suribachi, photos. And by the way, we had just, I mean, a wink of time to be up there to do the photos. And anyway, so on the trip back down, and the Japanese military personnel also helped these gentlemen down those steps. And so, I mean, all the way through, we get into the minivans and start rushing back to the airfield because that airplane was on a very tight schedule to be wheels up. And so we're all packed into these shuttle vans, and there's a young Japanese military man driving the van, and Tracie's up in the front seat. She looks over at him. She says, "Hey, what kind of music you like?" And they speak broken English, and
I Google Translate too to help.
Right, your translator, right. So what kind of music do you like? And the young man looks over and he says, "Freddie Mercury." And oh my gosh! And so Tracie, God love you, Tracie. Tracie's searching. I have no idea. You must have had it in your phone. Tracie's searching her phone, and all of a sudden, she plays Bohemian Rhapsody. And it was so crazy with the band's all, it's a sing-along. We had a sing-along ride on Iwo Jima, and here's Freddie Mercury and Queen belting out Bohemian Rhapsody. And you guys, in the middle of this song, I'm listening to the lyrics, singing the lyrics, but also listening to them. And if you just take a moment and Google search lyrics to Bohemian Rhapsody and put it in that context of where we were and who we were with. Oh my gosh. I mean, the lyrics were you talk about haunting. Holy crap. I mean, it was the weirdest, bizarre, just incredible a moment there too. But the lyrics, anyway, it was a fun yet real esoteric ride back to the airstrip. Man, that was very, very intense.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, I can't even imagine what it was like for y'all, because even just getting that phone call from
I
Tracie,
a video call when I was out there. I was like, if I have cell reception, I've got 2 phone calls to make. It was to y'all and then Jack Mandeville.
Yeah, well, tell that story, because you're right. You got through to these guys, right?
Iwo Jima has really good cell service. I'll give them that. Yeah. So I told them, I said, look, I don't know, what it's going to be like. I know that there was a military installation there, so if I can get some kind of service, I will call you. And Mike was my first video call out there. For these guys being Marines, I mean, they know their history, and it's obviously a very big honor to be there for myself, but it means more to the Marines and veterans, who you guys are the legacy, of those Marines that were there that day. So I called Mike. He was live streaming with a bunch of people, which I didn't know. And so he was freaking out. He's like, you guys, I'm talking. She's on Iwo. I can see Mount Suribachi.
Nuts. Yeah.
But then so Jack Mandeville, who is one of our dear friends and works with Black Rifle, who has made that trip possible. I call him, and he's a Marine Corps veteran. It cracked me up because of all the things, you would notice, he couldn't get over. He's like, there's so much grass there. There's so much grass. It was just volcanic rock. And he was like amazed at how much grass was on this island now.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
It was super, super grassy. Well, I got to tell you guys a funny story that goes along with that. I like 100% this happened. I went to bed that night and I had a dream that Tracie had like called us when she got back here and had like a $2,000 cell phone bill and was like, I need y'all. I need y'all to. It was $2,000 for some reason. I don't know why it was $2,000, but yeah, I had that dream because I want to say when you did get back, I texted you and I was like, hey, did you get a crazy cell phone bill for that call? But
it wasn't that bad, but it definitely kept those calls short.
That's really funny. Yeah.
So, Keith, and you know where I was kind of going with over like the 4th of July holiday in 2024.
Yeah.
So your father spent, his entire post Iwo Jima life, veteran, like an incredible representation of the Marine Corps, just incredible representation of humans in general, but especially the Marine Corps. Now that he's gone, and a lot of people are in this boat with you of being, you're now the family representation and legacy of carrying their story and their history forward.
Yeah.
This was part of it. But what does that look like to you moving forward to continue to tell and share Charlie's story?
Yeah. Thank you for allowing me a chance to chat about that, because you're 100% right. Charlie's and my uncle's story is unique in that we had the opportunity to share the story with the world vis-a-vis Tracie and Beyond the Call, having done a mini documentary on Charlie and Eddy called Brothers in Arms. And I think you guys said you're going to link that video, that mini documentary, to this podcast. 22 minutes to capture all of this story. And Tracie and the team, Elizabeth and Nick, editor, just did a marvelous, magnificent job of putting their story in a context so that it lives. Charlie lives, and Eddy still lives by virtue of that documentary. And for me to know that Charlie's words about war in general, having been what he was through, will always be echoing in my head. And I mean, some of the things he would say, among others, and it's in the film too, war is the ultimate failure of mankind.
Yeah.
And he has some really poignant moments in the film, if you get a chance to watch it. He talks about how to solve the problem of war. And it's just having been what he was through. And it's important not only for me as a bloodline, but for every human being on earth to listen and learn from history. And yes, I'm as close to the bone, literally and figuratively, as it gets to that history. But there's a lot of lessons inside of all that. And it's our duty, my responsibility to make sure that his story continues to be told. So it's a lest we forget type of scenario.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was kind of, you started to get into the follow-up question there. So speaking of duty, like, what would you say to someone right now who's a family member, who's listening, who maybe they don't feel right? Because there's always this weird thing, and there's this weird thing amongst veterans also about people don't want to seek fame or notoriety or anything like that. So sometimes we just be quiet, and quiet isn't good, right? No matter who you are. So what would you say to some family member that's out there listening right now that has a family member who served? Obviously you feel as if it is their duty, but just speak to them for a second about the importance of that.
Yeah, sure. The first word in Brothers in Arms, the documentary, is Charlie. Charlie narrates it first person, but his first word is courage. And it takes courage for anybody who wants to carry on a story or the story of a family member. Because a lot of guys and women were not forthcoming about it, and the trauma and the PTSD and all that is real. And yet for all of us, for our children's children, to make sure that we don't repeat history, the atrocities, it is my humble opinion, the onus is on us to make sure that what used to be a chapter in American history books is now become truncated to a few paragraphs, which has now become truncated to a few sentences. This is really important stuff, and it's on us to make sure that that doesn't die with the people responsible for protecting our freedom, and for that matter, the freedom of this planet.
Right.
And I'm fortunate, among other reasons, I live in St. Louis, Missouri, which happens to be where the Military Records Center is for all of U.S. military records. And so I have the privilege of going up to the Military Records Center here, and I pulled all of Charlie and Eddy's military records. And it's what an extraordinary experience that is, by the way, to find your ancestors' military records.
Right.
You'd be shocked at what they've got. And oh my gosh, I found, in fact, you know what, you guys, I found a letter. I had never seen it. Charlie never saw it. And one of the last things I uncovered in his file, actually it was Eddy's file. Oh my gosh. It was a letter, handwritten. It was the original handwritten letter by my grandmother, Charlie and Eddy's mother. 2.5 weeks after Iwo. And the letter she sent the letter to the General of the Marine Corps, Washington, D.C. Dear Sir, or whomever, to whom it may concern, I've heard from my son, Charlie, who I know was injured on Iwo Jima, but I haven't heard from my other boy, Eddy. That's not like Eddy. He always stays in touch with me. Can you please tell me where Eddy is? Something to that effect. Oh my gosh. I'm in the research center and I buckled, holding this piece of this original handwritten letter from my grandmother. I went down on my knees. Man, it was intense. My point is, sharing that little anecdote, my point is, back to your original question, there is a treasure trove of information available about people's ancestors who've served. And it's, ironically enough, right here in St. Louis. So, I mean, and you can hire researchers to go do this because not everybody can get to St. Louis to rifle through all these records, but you can hire people to do that. And it would be worth exploring for those who are wondering, how do I keep this story alive, or how do I even begin to look into what my mom or dad did during the war? So Yeah. I hope that answers your question in a roundabout way, perhaps. But yeah.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And I'd like to, especially with I'm trying to think of the best way to add to this.
Mm.
I don't even know if you're aware of this, because I don't know if we ever told you.
Mm.
So I don't ever delete any text messages, so I'm sure I still have them somewhere. I think it was around April or May of 2024 when Tracie and I met.
Yeah.
And we did a podcast together. It was awkwardly great because
We didn't really know each other back then, so it was a lot more formal.
She's great at asking questions. I'm great at asking questions, and neither of us were really good at answering questions at that point. So it's like you put two people that are good at asking questions together. It's awkward. But after we spoke, she talked about Charlie, and I watched the video for the first time back then, and all of these great things. And I was talking with her about, because St. Louis, as you know, right? Because my girlfriend at the time lived down the street in the end of the cul-de-sac from y'all.
Crazy. I mean,
right?
I know. I remember the story, right?
And so, it's so crazy to think that, he was there that entire time. And then finally here I am meeting Tracie, finding out about Charlie and Eddy and the story. And I'm like, I got to get up to St. Louis. I got to meet this guy. I want to, talk with him and hear his story, like do a podcast with him.
Yeah.
And, unfortunately, it didn't happen.
Right.
And the reason I say this is for anybody that's out there listening. If you have the opportunity to go talk with someone, especially when they're still here, or if they're not, in this case, talking with Keith and meeting you, I don't really ever leave Florida in the wintertime. But what was that? It was November that we flew up there, right?
It was freezing cold. Yeah, it was snowing.
Right.
We had some beautiful snow, at least. Like, if I'm going to be cold, give me some snow. And at least St. Louis, they did provide that for us when we flew up there.
Yeah.
And, an incredible ceremony. But my recommendation and almost like plead to anybody that's listening is, don't wait, because we never know.
Right.
And just find family members like Keith and get them talking and sharing their story and artifacts, which is something like you and Tracie both have things here that I kind of want to start with Tracie with what she has in the background, because we know what it is, but I want it to be shared here by Tracie. Do a little let's get you crying on full screen.
Yeah.
Let's blow up them tears.
Let's start with Tracie here and what's here with us during the podcast today, and then we'll switch back Keith and go over some of what you have there from Charlie.
Sure.
Yeah. Charlie was not just someone that we went to interview and then walked away, and didn't do anything later. Charlie, from the moment we met him, I remember walking into the door, he started singing. He always had these little riddles or limericks or songs, anything, and he just started singing to me. He also, which was incredibly thoughtful, Keith, I don't know if you remember this, but we had just lost John Heimsoth, World War II veteran that I was very close with. And Charlie had a framed picture of John for me as a gift. That was the first moment that I met him. And he just became like a surrogate grandfather over the years. And birthdays, Christmas, holidays, he'd sing me a song. I've got my favorite one from one of my birthdays. He did a video for me, and he's got a birthday hat on and one of those little blowers that and sang happy birthday. but I just adore that man so much. So it is what's behind me right here. That's Charlie's ashes, which is a huge honor to be trusted by the family to look over Charlie. You know, our goal is to hopefully be able to reunite him out with Eddy at those coordinates. But until then, I will protect and,
You're on
just
watch. You're on watch.
yeah. And what you were saying, about don't wait. I had an opportunity. I think it was maybe January or February of that year that Charlie passed. It was like I would be able to be in St. Louis for a few, like just overnight, not even 24 hours. And I was like, I got to just go, I got to go. And so flew in, got to stay the night over at Charlie's. We watched St. Vincent with Bill Murray, had like tacos for dinner, and we just had fun, just like a slumber party over at Charlie's house. And then I remember leaving that next morning, and I knew, it was probably going to be the last time.
Yeah,
it was. But you're right. Don't wait.
right.
Don't wait for those moments. Just go.
Yeah, Tracie, he never had daughters. I'm a product of 2 brothers and no sisters, and he looked at you as if you were part of the family, and that's how how I feel about you too. You really became and are part of us, and you made certain, back to the question, that his story was history and forever. And I mean, to the point where during COVID, Tracie comes up with the idea of doing this thing called Cheers with Charlie. And for weeks, Tracie, I mean, how many, a couple, 3 months maybe, we did a weekly that turned into like bi-weekly, live Facebook live discussions from right
there
with Charlie. And we opened it up to anyone. I think we had like 5,000 people tuning in to watch Cheers with Charlie during COVID. And it was just a discussion with me and Charlie hanging out, talking about his war memories, of course, and other things, but primarily about the war. And that legacy, Tracie, thank you, because that still exists. I mean, that's out there. I think, Tracie, you might have it on your Facebook or Beyond the Calls Facebook page somewhere, but it's out there. And what precious moments that is, to the point of don't wait. I mean, please get involved, and these are fleeting moments, and capture them while you can.
And I think too, that time period during COVID, it was one of those moments where we were like, well, we can't travel. We can't, go out and do these interviews or anything. So how do we still engage with these veterans? And it became like a really needed community during that time. It was like, it was the time period where you were locked down. Like you could not get out. You had to, they were doing like 12 people at a time in the grocery store, and just like that period where it was like people needed people. There was not a lot of ability to go spend time, with friends and family throughout that. And it was something I think all of us looked forward to every week. Just you were seeing your friends, and Charlie would talk about his experiences in the war, but also just riddles and, trivia. And then it was really cool. We were able to bring on a couple different Marine Corps veterans to talk about the generations of Marines. I remember Barrett, who he was a Global War on Terror Marine Corps veteran. And I think his MOS, I don't remember how he explained it, but what he did was the same thing that what Eddy would have done, like during his time in the Marine Corps. And I still hear from him about how much Charlie impacted his life, you know, and I think too, for Charlie, like to get to talk to these younger Marine Corps, you know, veterans and hear about the differences in, you know, how they did things back then, how they do things now. But the pride too, that these young guys know where they came from and know, you know, the stories of the men who went before them. Yeah, just a lot of cool things came out of that. And it does, you know, it's like you don't have to be there in person. You can find ways to share these stories and provide community too to these, especially the older veterans who a lot of them are, you know, at their home most of the time, have lost their spouse. You know, there's a level of loneliness that I think we have to be aware of, and not just, you know, these ceremonies, these events, you know, these trips, they're great, but like the day to day, these guys are lonely. And if you can find ways to alleviate some of that, it's, you know, it's the biggest blessing that I've had, just being able to spend time with these guys. And, you know, Charlie was a special one for me. You know, you don't get that close with everybody, but yeah, it's one of the biggest blessings of my life was to be able to get to know Charlie. And it all happened. Do you guys know how we met?
Yeah, crazy. Another divine intervention for sure. Go ahead, Tracie.
I was living in Nashville at the time and was working for a news station as a camera operator. And she's a very dear friend to both of us now. Her name is Jessica. She was looking for somebody to volunteer as a videographer for a project that she was doing. So she had been calling around to different places and seeing, you know, if she could reach somebody to step in. She called a wrong number and got my boss at the time and thought she was calling another company. And she said, well, since I have you on the line, do you know anybody that would want to volunteer their time to come help with this? It was a project down in Jamaica randomly at an orphanage. And he's like, I have the perfect person who I think would love to do this. So he connected us and we got to be friends. Well, Jessica, this is where Keith comes in. You can tell this part where she met you at it was a film kind of pitch for your dad's story, right?
Yeah, it was a big film conference here in St. Louis. And there was a competition, 5 finalists chosen to pitch a documentary idea. I was one of the 5 finalists and pitched the story of Charlie and Eddy and the 23rd Regimental Weapons Company from World War II. And Jessica happened to be very instrumental in putting that conference together. And after the presentation, she pulls me aside and says, hey, I got somebody you should meet. Her name's Tracie Hunter. And so sure enough, I, out of thin air, called Tracie, had to explain who the hell I am and was at the time. And she says, okay, well, something must have hooked you there, Tracie, because not long thereafter, that was November of 2019 when the conference took place. By January of 2020, 2 months prior to COVID, Tracie and Elizabeth are here to do the filming of Charlie's documentary. I mean, within those 2 months. So, I mean, how crazy we talk about twists of fate, and I just don't think anything's coincidental. Call it what you will. It's, you know, it's the book, The 5 People You Will Meet in Heaven. People are destined to meet, I think, for a reason. And there is a reason clearly that Tracie and I were put together, and it's all right here in front of you, in front of all this stuff back behind me too.
So all that stuff there, we do want to
Right.
let you
Speaking of which, right?
yeah. Let's go over what
Yeah.
you've
Well,
got. This is such a beautiful.
yeah. This room, by the way, when Charlie was alive, this whole room, if you could see the rest of the room, the war room. I mean, we had this whole place was nothing but Marine Corps. I mean, just chock-a-block full of Marine Corps stuff. So I kind of reassembled bits and pieces of it here for our podcast. Here, you'll see this is Tracie and Elizabeth and Charlie during the filming of Brothers in Arms. We were just talking about. This was January of 2020. We went down to the Soldiers Memorial here in St. Louis, where Charlie's brother Eddy is etched on the wall as having been KIA at Iwo. So we went down there, and Charlie, you'll see that in the film if you watch it. Charlie's original hat from the Marine Corps here. It's just
That's so awesome.
well, you know what, you guys? He always gave me shit about. He goes, "Hey, can you make sure get that polished?" He wanted that. Make sure that's nice and shiny. These are photos of Charlie and Eddy together, brothers in arms, taken on Camp Maui. If you watch it, I'm not going to tell you more about that, but just them reuniting at Camp Maui is worth just seeing the film just for that story by itself. Of course, you know what that is. It's just a little replica. Black sand that we picked up, Tracie and I picked up at Yellow Beach 1. And that's Charlie, at least part of Charlie here. But that's who was with us on Iwo, got to the top of Suribachi with us, and came back home. I always call this, it's like the hero's journey. And, you know, if you ever think of any really good creative film, it's called The Hero's Journey. And it's The Wizard of Oz, it's E.T., it's the Bible itself, that the hero leaves home and encounters challenges, wins battles, but ultimately the hero comes home. Yeah. Anyway, so behind me, while it's Charlie in his portrait, this is his original Marine Corps uniform, as one of them anyway. He always loved the dress blues, though. Oh my gosh! Anytime he'd see him in a dress blue, he'd stand up. Oh, he would be so proud. Dress blues, man. This is Eddy's burial flag. That was draped over the canvas coffin aboard the USS Bayfield when they tipped him over and let him slide down and into the eternity. But that's the original 48 stars, as you can tell there, obviously, clearly. This, by the way, is
This is really a really interesting piece of history.
This is, as I mentioned, Charlie, Iwo was Charlie's fourth battle. Right. He was on Roy Namor, Saipan, Tinian, and then Iwo. Well, on Saipan, he and his crew, he commanded a 37 millimeter anti-tank crew. And middle of the night, the Jeep that they were in busted a flat, and they got off course, and they had to fix the tire in the middle of the night. And they got separated from their rest of the guys, so they're hunkered down in a cane field on Saipan. And next morning, as sun was coming up, there were Japanese soldiers approaching them, and they were essentially eyeball to eyeball. And Charlie and a Japanese soldier both drew their rifles. And again, how I'm here, I'll have no idea. Yeah. Charlie pulled his trigger first. dropped the Japanese soldier and picked up this gun, which is a Japanese rifle, from that dead soldier. Somehow, miraculously, got this damn thing shipped home from the island of Saipan in the middle of the war. And it was sent back to his mom and dad, my grandparents. And what's cool about this rifle, I mean, among other things, this is the original leather. It's got all kinds of crazy dents and markings on it. Of course, because it came straight from the battlefield, it still has the chrysanthemum, which if anybody knows Japanese military rifle history, you know that chrysanthemum is very unique nowadays anyway. Also, I mean, this thing, I gotta believe,
Yeah.
that bayonet probably still has DNA on it, is my guess. But this thing's I'm fortunate to still have it. Charlie also told me a little bit about this hook.
Mm-hmm.
Hook here. There's a little hook at the end of the bayonet, and he would say the Japanese were taught that when they come at you, if it's hand-to-hand combat, and you've got your gun, they've got their rifle, and you've got your rifle, they take this and wrap your bayonet inside of that and twist it, so you drop your rifle before they would. So anyway, little stuff that you learn. Again, ask the questions.
Yeah.
Ask the questions. So that's all that. I also, last little thing to show you here. Last little thing. This is Charlie's. You can see that. There we go. That's Charlie's medal. This is Purple Heart. You may not be able to see this.
We can see it. You got it at a great angle.
Okay, right beneath the Purple Heart is a piece of shrapnel that was gingerly pulled out of him at Aiea Heights Hospital in Hawaii. That piece of shrapnel was among the many pieces of shrapnel that shredded his body on Iwo Jima. And it's there. And yeah, so it's, you talk about some crazy stuff. Oh, and last thing, just to make mention, this is the dog tags. I left this at the top of Suribachi. I had Charlie's dog tags here and Eddy's over here. This is a replica, and it's called The Black Rain, a little poem I wrote about how, quite frankly, how that island was so insignificant since the beginning of time, and then for 6 weeks it became the most treasured and prized place on earth, and how ultimately insignificant it all is at the end of it.
Right.
My point is, this is actually Charlie's original dog tag. I had replica dog tags made to bring to Iwo of Charlie's and Eddy's. And by the way, anybody wants replica dog tags? Oh my gosh. There's a company called mydogtag.com. I'm plugging them. I didn't even think of it. But oh my gosh, wow, are they amazing. Again, it's Mark and Matt there. Mydogtag.com, amazing company. And I need to send them a thank you for doing what they did. But yeah, just Tracie, thank you.
Hey!
Yeah,
Yeah.
great.
People are loving those cups. Yeah, that's compliments to Dave Zules from Pearl Harbor Aviation Museum. He very kindly donates his talents to be on the call for our gifts and merch and stuff.
Yeah.
And Keith, what, in reference to the flag, what was Memorial Day like for you guys?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Charlie, Memorial Weekend, Charlie would always insist, put the flag up. I mean, the first thing he would say to me is, is the flag up? Or put the flag up. Without fail, this flag flies at this house every Memorial Weekend. Well, it flies. I'll tell you when it flies. February 19th every year. Memorial Day and Memorial Weekend every year. And it stays up on June 1st. The Memorial Weekend's usually around that time, but it stays up to June 1st because June 1st is Eddie's birthday. So it just happens to always fall around Memorial Day. So, of course, it flies on July 4th, and now we'll stay up July 4th, 5th, and 6th because Charlie died on the 6th of July. It flies on Veterans Day, of course, as well. So, Memorial Day here. I mean, we always had moments of discussion and storytelling about Eddy, clearly. But it was more than that. It was Charlie would reminisce about his buddies, because he lost a lot of buddies.
Yeah.
A lot. Again, Iwo was his fourth battle. I mean, he would tell stories on Saipan and Tinian. I mean, the bonsai attacks, and sadly, one of his buddies was killed by friendly fire because he got in the middle of the bonsai attack. You don't unsee those things. You don't.
I want to ask you, this is going to lead into something that it feels like been a very, I don't know, people like to soapbox and get crazy in different controversial topics, but here we go, because your father, Iwo Jima veteran, fought and survived. Tell us, and if I don't get the answer I want, I'll get it eventually, but we'll start with asking it this way. Tell us what was a typical Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Memorial Day weekend like for the Kohlers?
No. Well, I will submit that it depends on how old we were.
Yeah.
So many times we would take advantage of the long holiday and go camping and canoeing, which is I still do. My father loved the outdoors. So when I was much younger, in Missouri, we have these incredibly beautiful Ozark riverways.
Yeah.
And he introduced me to canoeing and fishing and camping and all the things that father-sons would do. So we'd take advantage of the long weekends to do that at a younger age. Other things we would do as kids and throw the baseball around or go hunting, and just it was always very, very fortunate to have a father like him that was so engaged, regardless of if it was Memorial Weekend or not. But as we got older, we instead of traveling, he taught me how to golf. So we'd go almost all Memorial weekends. We'd take a good couple of days and go to the golf course and enjoy a number of holes. And of course, nothing more important than the 19th hole there, because he enjoyed his brownies. He called them brownies. It was his nickname for Manhattans. Of course, that generation, my gosh, that was the best we drink. But yeah, so and then as he got older, after my dear mother passed, when he got old, he was in his 90s, and now we're sitting around here and talking, as I was just mentioning, just a little bit more. I think he was much more reflective of the purpose, the meaning behind Memorial Weekend as he was aging. And it was the inevitable was getting closer for him too. So I think interestingly enough, Tracie, when and I put us in that category, of that pronoun we, would have the chance to talk with him, he really began opening up even more about the war in his last decade. And I think it was primarily because he knew time was collapsing.
Yeah. And
he also knew the importance, back to the earlier discussion, the importance of sharing these stories and memorializing, to use a word, his fellow heroes.
Yeah.
And they're all heroes. And funny, Charlie taught me, when I see a veteran, if I see somebody wearing a hat, total stranger, I will go out of my way to go shake that person's hand, of course. But Charlie always said, thank you for your courage instead of thank you for your service.
Yeah.
It's more than service. It's courage. And that's, again, the first word he comes out with in the documentary. And that word is really important. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your courage.
The reason I ask, and I don't know if you and Tracie knew where I was going with this. I feel like Neil might have, but and then I kind of felt that was the answer we were going to get. Is there's so many people that will get out there and, pretty much you need to spend these 3 days somber, sad. You're not allowed to have fun. Don't camp. I served. You have to listen to me. Like they'll soapbox about it.
Yeah.
Whereas, just the little I know about you and Charlie and what I've learned from you and from Tracie is I see him as being that man that sets the example of we go and we enjoy this weekend because people fought and died for it.
Bingo.
And
Bingo.
I mean, who I don't want to say who better, but who better to know the cost than a man whose brother passed on the same island where they fought together, and then countless many other Marine brothers and other soldiers for that matter. So I really wanted to ask that question for that purpose.
Yeah.
Because I don't want people to, I mean, the biggest thing is, it's like, there's this big thing with veterans anyways, that staying inside a home isolated, like, is not good for us anyways.
Right.
The last thing we want to do is encourage more of that.
There was a purpose to the war. It's called freedom.
There you go. There you go. And I think we have the responsibility, or using your words from earlier, we have the duty to enjoy what they sacrificed for.
Yeah.
While remembering them.
The privilege. It's a privilege.
Yes.
And we owe it all back to them. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you're right. I mean, to be able to pay homage to whatever we're doing to enjoy our freedoms during Memorial Weekend or any other random day of the year. Do not ever, ever forget how and why we can do that. And it just so happens we set aside a weekend, a day of the year to purposefully acknowledge this. But don't let a day go by without remembering.
Absolutely. Well, I'm so glad that you and Tracie and the 5 and the others, I don't even know who else got to go make that trip.
Yeah.
Have that experience, especially, like you said, it completed the hero's journey.
Mm-hmm. Full circle.
And
yeah,
I'm just so fortunate and blessed to know both of you all, and for you guys to take the time and come on here and just keep the legacy going, right?
Yeah,
to continue sharing the story.
And thanks to you guys. I mean, you guys doing what you're doing. I mean, you're testament to that purpose.
We appreciate that.
Really, really important. I'm honored and privileged to be here with Tracie and you gentlemen and anyone who's taking the time to watch and listen to the podcast. And please know I'm a resource. If anybody wants to reach out, I'm happy to chat. And if it helps to inspire somebody else to dive a little deeper into their own family history, then my purpose of being here is even more pronounced.
Yeah, and to follow up with that, after we get off here and we're done, whatever links it is that you want me to share to reach out, contact, different things of that nature, I'll absolutely have them included, like I do with every episode here in the description.
Right on.
So we'll make that happen as well.
Right on.
And Tracie, thank you so much for. I feel like there has to be like some kind of a part 2 or something, because, there's so much more. There's a lot we didn't get into, and I feel like we definitely at least have to have a part 2 about beyond the call and everything that went into everything and setting this up and all that you do. And You know, it's incredible. It's the three of us for sure. Scott, I don't know how many other people, but I know at least the ones here, the group here, and Scott know what went into making this possible. It wasn't just catching a flight and going.
No.
You know, no one ever sees, they only see the end product.
Mhm.
They don't see the battle, the struggle, the fights, the texts, the emails, and all the things that you do for our community.
Mhm.
You know, we can't thank you enough for that as well. Just, you know, keep being amazing. And like you said, you know, you can't let a day pass. You know, we both flew in for one day to go see Don for his birthday. Like, that's it.
Right.
You've got to put in the effort and
Yes.
not miss out the opportunity.
Yes.
And Tracie got me up there to see Nils Mockler. You know, I got to talk to him for about 4.5 hours. You know, on this pilgrimage I made up the coast, and
Yeah.
to hear some of the things that he had to say, and just share that time with him. It was incredible. None of that happens without Tracie, and you know, I can't thank you enough. Continuously, Tracie, you're tireless with it.
Yeah.
And it means the world to me. I know it means the world to Keith and Charlie and Don, everybody, all of us. You know,
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And just to echo another thing here for everybody's sake, you know, Tracie runs this organization named Beyond the Call, and anyone who has any interest in ensuring that these stories stay alive, please reach out to Beyond the Call. She does, I mean, it's just incredible what you do, Tracie, and your mission and your purpose and the organization. I mean, every last little detail, every last thing you do, every T's crossed, every I is dotted. Everything on this trip was so perfectly orchestrated by Tracie. Cannot speak high enough about Tracie Hunter and Beyond the Call. So please make note of that. And you know, the sponsors behind it, I mean, be remiss for not mentioning Black Rifle Coffee. Incredible support. So people are behind the scenes that deserve all the credit.
So the last thing we do here, Keith, is I do a typical sign off,
Mm.
right?
Sure.
So I'm gonna roll into that here, and then there's something I'm gonna ask of you.
Okay.
All right. So, you know, for all of our brothers and sisters out there and everybody that has served and all those that served those who served, you know, we can't thank you guys enough for being here and being a part of everything that we do. And just remember, you know, the brotherhood doesn't end whenever the uniform comes off. We're always here. If you need us, reach out. We love every single one of you. Until next time, Semper Fi.
Semper Fi.
Keith, can you sign us off with Charlie's last words that you wrote down that last night?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I had a good time.